Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in today. We are broadcasting live on KSWV Radio 99.9 FM, 810 AM. We'd like to welcome to the program this morning our good friends from Environmental Services Division, Shirlene Sitton and Neil Denton. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Esteban.
Thank you for being here with us today. So excited that we have an opportunity to catch up and to visit this morning to talk about a lot of wonderful things that are happening with Environmental Services Division and Shirlene. Nice to see you again. Neil, just saw you a couple of weeks ago, so it's nice to get reacquainted. So tell us, Shirlene, I know that we have lots of things that we're going to be talking about this morning, but one of the issues that I know that we're going to be talking about is bulk yard waste collections. But good morning.
Good morning. So usually Michaela or Carol Branch, Michaela Beggins or Carol Branch are here with me, but they're both unavailable today, and Neil was enough to not leave me hanging here all by myself. So thanks, Neil, for joining.
I'm always happy to talk trash with you, Shirlene.
Well, for our radio listeners out there, we know Neil is the sustainability planner for the city of Santa Fe.
Yes, that's right. I host a monthly show with you called Climate Matters every fourth Wednesday, 8:30 to 9.
Yep. And Shirlene Sitton is La Meta Meta, as we say, of ESD. She's the boss over there. So thank you for being here today.
Sure. Thank you. And just, we just have the greatest staff here at ESD, and, people just really working hard to bring good services to the city and the people of Santa Fe. So glad to be on the same show with Neil, and definitely glad to be on the same team.
Great, fantastic. So, Shirlene, let's kind of tee up the conversation for our listening audience out there. The bulky yard waste collections. What is that about? And there's a
just a small announcement. During COVID, one of the things, really the thing that hit us the hardest has been a shortage of staff, and it's something we've always struggled with, but it seemed exacerbated. And so we had a combination of a shortage of staff that got worse and worse, not due to COVID itself. We had almost no COVID here in our division, but just due to other things. And the amount of residential waste that has been generated, we've talked about it on this show a few times during the pandemic, has just been astounding. And so for a while, we had to suspend bulky waste collection at all. At the beginning, we just weren't sure how COVID was transmitted and things like that. And we wanted to reduce any staff contact as much as possible. But really, over time, it just became we didn't have the capacity to add it back in. And so we added back in regular bulky waste a while back, but yard waste, because it's not a health issue, we just haven't had the capacity for it. But we're going to be starting to add it back in now. And so starting tomorrow, people can call our customer service line and start scheduling collections. But I do want to say, please be patient, because our bulky waste collections are still almost at maximum. We just have a little room to start adding that in. And of course, we have a lot of requests for it, and we understand that, and especially this time of year. But I just do ask that people be patient. We're doing the best we can. I think we have openings right now that are posted. If we don't, they will be again in about a week. If anyone's looking for work, that's great work with retirement benefits and all of the things. But be patient. We will schedule you, and if you are able to take your own bulky waste to BERT, please consider doing that instead. But if you're not able and you really are in need of getting some bulky waste off your property, yard waste, green waste, you can give us a call and we'll start getting you on the schedule. It might still be a few weeks out. So again, we ask for your patience. We're doing the best we can, and we really do want to deliver the best service we can to our residents and customers.
Oh, this is great news. Yes, indeed. Again, for our listening audience just tuning in, the We're going to start scheduling bulky yard waste collections for next week and beyond. And Charlene, thank you for reminding us that, we can all exercise our patience because, as you mentioned, we are just under the max for bulky collections. So in the meantime, as you mentioned, consider taking your yard waste to Bert first. And so, Neil, do you have anything to add to that?
I would just add that those collections, at least of the woody debris, the branches and whatnot, that is recycling. That material is turned into mulch at the Buckman Road Recycling and Transfer Station. And that's the best kind of recycling because it all stays right here in Santa Fe.
That's right. And it's more likely to be recycled if you take it yourself. If we have a lot of collections we have to do at once, we might have to mix that with other waste, and so it won't go to the recycling. So we do the best we can, but again, kind of with limited staff and collections, if you take it yourself, you can ensure it's going to go right to the composting.
Okay. Well, we're visiting with Charlene Sinton and Neil Denton this morning. I've always kind of been curious, Charlene, about how we can gauge whether business is picking up in Santa Fe. And there's a way that you all know on your side of the business and the industry when business is picking up, right?
Yeah. Neil, one of the things Neil does for us is kind of crunch our waste numbers and generate our reports. And the most recent report shows that commercial waste is coming back up.
Yeah, that's a good measure of economic activity in Santa Fe, the amount of trash we're collecting from businesses.
And it's actually a measure of economic activity all over the country. So when commercial waste is down, we know economic activity is down, and when it's up, things are booming.
Very good. Well, I think so. On the one hand, it's good to know that business is picking up, but also on the other hand, I know that all of us, need to do our parts, not only as residents, but also as businesses, and ours included, to reduce, reuse, recycle right.
It's true. Waste is just one of those kind of strange things that, traditionally we've measured success of recycling or things like that on weight, but weights of waste, can be interpreted many different ways. And we talked a lot on this program about lightweighting of recycling. So it gets lighter and lighter for more material. So it's not necessarily a good measure of how much we're recycling or diverting, but more commercial waste, which could be a lot of food waste or things like that from restaurants opening. It does mean more economic activity. So we'll take the good news part of that and just keep working on waste reduction overall.
Absolutely, and one of the obvious activities that has taken place during the pandemic has been a lot more shipments to people's homes and shipments to people's businesses for even groceries or meals. And I know that even prepackaged meal delivery services have been on the rise, hasn't it?
Yeah, if you listen to podcasts.
Yeah, go ahead, Neil.
If you listen to podcasts, you hear those commercials all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. It seems like they're really doing the marketing in the podcasts.
Interesting. Well, that seems like a demographic. Yeah, like maybe a younger demographic, or I don't know.
Well, me.
Have either of you?
Oh, I actually haven't.
No, I haven't, but I hear of folks that have, and some of the feedback is that while it's convenient to get prepackaged meal delivery services and practice COVID practices, safe, that type of stuff, that it does come with a fairly sizable amount of packaging materials. And so, that's kind of an issue there in and of itself, right?
Yeah.
Definitely. The more we do that kind of thing, you get those little packages for the, serving size of onion you got, and what have you. All that little plastic film just has to go in the landfill now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were just talking about this. So Michaela was telling me that she got a meal.
Be done with it, so it has pretty much no value.
Go ahead, Shirlene.
Sorry, I think Neil. I'm not sure if Neil's freaking up for me.
And I'm back.
And he's back.
Yeah. Well, I was just saying, Michaela and I were talking about it. She had gotten she was gifted a box from a friend who wasn't going to be able to use it. So she had never used it before either. And she was actually sending me pictures and video of, she was shocked by how much packaging waste was in the box. And she was like, oh my gosh. And so we kind of talked about it. And I remembered that one of the earlier ones got a lot of pushback on that. There was it was in the news and there was a lot of discussion. And so they, an older brand than the one she got, did a lot of kind of addressing and trying to change their packaging, and they have recycling information right up front. But this particular newer brand didn't seem to really have any kind of a nod towards recycling or anything like that. So, that's just one thing. It's just one drop in the bucket of all that increased non-recyclable packaging we're receiving.
I guess it makes me wonder, when we get new products or we're adding more burdens to the system, meaning our recycling systems, because of increased packaging, how do we assess ownership and what's right to do what's responsible?
I guess I'll go. I'm glad you asked that, Esteban. Because, right now, regardless of the choices you make, the waste you generate at home, every Santa Fe account holder, everyone who pays the solid waste bill is paying the same amount. You have that cart, you can fill it or not fill it, paying the same amount. So, to answer your question, it's the taxpayers that are paying for all that non-recyclable waste. If we had more options to deal with, if you could say, I want the home meal delivery kit with the recyclable packaging, not the one that doesn't have it, and then keep that out of the waste stream, we could help keep costs down. But right now, when we don't have those options, as a consumer, you don't have the power to make a choice to eliminate your waste. If you just have to say, I'm not going to do that whole thing. I'm not going to do any home meal kits. And it kind of gets old having to say no to things that other people are enjoying because you're trying to make the right decision, green decision.
Well, it's not only the prepackaged meal delivery services, but I know the whole craze of the whole Keurig kind of cups, and popping one of those plastic pods into a Keurig-like device. It could be any kind of coffee-making device, really. But a lot of concern about what these empty plastic cups do to our environment, and really making people feel like, well, it is nice to have the convenience of being able to, pop one of these in and have coffee in about a minute. But after you look back after a while and you're like, wow, this has really kind of had an impact on our environment. So it really makes me think about, our packaging systems, our waste, our recycling systems, what it's doing to the environment overall. I know there's countless examples out there like that. I know we're talking about prepackaged meal delivery service and the Keurig pods and that type of thing, but it really is, everywhere, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of those things
plastics in particular are everywhere, literally everywhere.
I heard a statistic that the average American consumes like a credit card worth of plastic material I don't know what the period is on that, but I think
every year, yes, that's in our bodies, microplastics that are either being ingested through water or, potentially through cosmetic products. Food. I mean, these are, plastics you can't see. Not even, some of them might be little beads, but even smaller than that.
So So I mean, I get the manufacturer looks at the consumer wants a product. The consumer wants to get a good value for a product. How do we get this into the hands of the consumer the cheapest way possible so that they don't have to pay any more than they should? But often it comes at the expense of using these materials in our packaging system that do impact our environment, and
Right.
makes me wonder, like, whose responsibility is it? The manufacturer, the producer's responsibility? Is it our government's responsibility? Is it our personal responsibility?
Right. So that's a big part of what is the movement towards product stewardship or extended producer responsibility. Whose responsibility is it? I don't know. I saw the John Oliver show that was on recently that really looked at this question through the lens of plastics. I think plastics are really kind of the main topic of conversation around all this right now, because we're starting to acknowledge how much plastic pollution's in the environment, in the ocean, and all of those things. But it's a big question. Are we as consumers personally responsible for all of this? Right? We always have to be on the lookout to make the right decision for which product we buy, how we sort it into our trash and into our recycling, or if it's not accepted in curbside recycling, then the more onerous ways, household hazardous waste or electronic waste or other things, like that's a lot of burden on individuals. Or is it the government's responsibility? And as a government, we offer recycling programs. Governments do a lot to help develop markets, or in public-private partnerships, help prop up companies who accept and sort and sell recycling. Without that government partnership, that really wouldn't be there. And governments pass laws, right? They can pass laws like bottle bills, which was one of the topics of that show. They can pass EPR laws, shifting some of that responsibility back. And then there's manufacturers, right? So you say that manufacturers you want to bring things that the public wants. I'm not sure the public asked for Keurigs, right? Manufacturers and capitalism, right? They try to think, what will people like? What will they want? What will they buy? And I use a Keurig. I'm just saying this all exists in a system, but right? What responsibility do they have? Can they design packaging or products that are not so hard on the environment? Can they provide recycling support for companies, take back programs? There's a whole world of who's responsible in there.
Well, it's not an easy answer, but and like I was talking about with the home delivery kit, as consumers, you can't always make the right choice. Sometimes you have to say, I'm not doing that. I mean, another example is dog food. Those bags that comes in that are paper and metal and plastic all in one, you can't recycle that. Maybe you can get some dog food in a plastic tub, but then that might not be the dog food you want for your dog. So how do we encourage the manufacturers to change their packaging? It can be really hard as a consumer to reach out to that company. Maybe you're calling a 1-800 number and dealing with some customer service representative. But if there was really value in the material, that's what this is. A lot of, Charlene mentioned EPR laws, which stands for Extended Producer Responsibility. A lot of what that is about is encouraging, valuing the waste material and getting it back to the economy, instead of passing it on to taxpayers to bury it in a landfill and pay that cost of all the engineering expenses, all the excavation expenses, all the landfill costs are just passed on to the taxpayer to bury valuable material. We see cell phone stores, they all have a box where they'll take back cell phones, tablets, chargers. That's because there's an inherent value in the metals that are in those materials that they want to take it back for value. But we're dealing with paper which is a lot of what is in our garbage, what's in our recycling. A lot of paper, it's a lot of boxes. There's just no value in that. So how do we encourage companies to get that back into the manufacturing system instead of using virgin plastic and, passing on the costs of getting that from from the world, from the environment.
Sure.
Neil touched on something I really want to explore a little more. A lot of times when EPR laws are being talked about by governments and citizens, manufacturers and their representative, marketing arms will really push back and say, well, this is just going to increase the cost of our products. But no one talks about the fact that the taxpayers are already paying an increased cost, right? Or ratepayers. I like to say ratepayers because taxes don't pay for your solid waste here. The rates that you pay on your utility bill are what pays. We're an enterprise fund. But the ratepayers are already subsidizing the costs so the manufacturers are already passing that cost on to you in a different way. So if they did redesign their product and it would cost a few pennies more because of that redesign, you as a consumer can decide too, that puts a little more power back into you. I want to pay for this or I don't want to pay for this. But overall, if you have a level playing field where you have a law that's in place that everyone has to redesign, then the prices of the products are probably going to be about even, and they probably won't go up. I can't speak to everything, but Europe has very strong EPR laws, and the same companies that operate in Europe operate in the United States, and so they make products that comply with those laws in Europe, but they will say in the United States, oh, we can't do that, but they already do. So don't be fooled by that. That's something that we really, really have to address in this country.
Well, thank you so much. We were visiting with Shirlene Sitton and Neil Denton. And in the couple of minutes remaining here, is there any other items that we'd like to fill our listening audience in today?
Yeah, well, Neil, do you want to talk a little bit about the Break Free from Plastic Pollution Act?
Yeah. Our, it was introduced at the federal level by our former Senator Tom Udall. One of the last things he did at the Senate, didn't necessarily do it on his way out. He introduced it about a year before he was done with the Senate. But it is a very comprehensive act at the federal level called the Break Free from Plastic Pollution Act. That's designed to, as we've described, kind of shift the economy, require that producers and manufacturers, put money and infrastructure towards handling the take back of plastic pollution, and it includes a bottle bill, which people who've lived in some other states like California might be familiar with. That's the 10-cent deposit on the bottles for take back program. Encourage people to get those too. Where they can recycle, and we're dealing with some really, really tragic plastic pollution in the country, the world right now, with plastic, the size of I think 3 times the size of Texas floating around in the ocean, the Great Pacific Plastic Gyre, and all that's from litter blowing and going down rivers and getting there. And so, what I touched on earlier is just seeing the value in that. If we could, if the U.S. Congress can get that across, and we can increase the value and bringing that back into the economy, we'll see a lot of, economic activity from that. In addition to taking care of our some
right.
of our
Another place where government can make a difference, right, is requiring some real standards on recycled content of packaging. So that would help prop up recycling markets and also maybe prevent unrecyclable packaging, from being developed and put out on the market, because they'll put new packaging on the market without any prior discussion with recyclers to see if this is something they can take or not take. And so we're just constantly bombarded with new products. Consumers, our customers expect us, well, can you recycle this? Can you recycle that? Well, no market has been developed for that. So the packaging is way ahead of the markets. I want to say one more thing, though, about bottle bills. I'm neither here nor there on bottle bills. There's pros and cons to them. A problem with bottle bills is exactly that. They get outdated, and really most of the bottle bills that are in place are quite outdated because they were put in place in the 90s, and packaging has outpaced what the packaging is that's being regulated by state bottle bills. They do good work in reducing litter, a lot of good work in reducing litter. But in a place where there hasn't been a bottle bill, they might interfere with the recycling structure that's already in place. So we just have to, we have to look, the devil is in the details, as they say. So we have to look at all those things. But I think minimum recycled content for packaging is another really good way to go to try to prop up markets and address the recyclability of packaging.
I'd like to add one thing about this before we wrap. Some people might think requiring recycled content and new products might, reduce the quality or something like that. But how about this for Esteban and Charlene? Pop quiz: which recycling commodity will always have the most recycled content in it?
Ooh, that's a good one.
I think I know the answer, but I'll let Esteban take a guess.
I am dumbfounded. I have no idea. Charlene, why don't you take it?
I'm going to say it's box board, cereal boxes.
Oh,
Milk cartons?
again. Metal.
Oh,
Steel.
well, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Steel has always been made with recycled metal and always will be, and that's that we use it to build skyscrapers and bridges. So it's just all a matter of the specifications of the product.
Wow.
That's true. Just watch any Star Wars movie, right? or the Mandalorian or whatever, right? Scrappers are right. That and that's metal scrappers are a big part of the economy.
And with that, we want to say thank you, Charlene and Neil. Really appreciate you being with us today. Have a great rest of your day and a great week. Thank you so much.
Thank
All right, have a
you.
good one,
Thanks, Neil,
everyone. Bye.
for joining me today.
Thanks for inviting me.